Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Powerhouse Blowtorch here, ladies and gentlemen, on Talk Radio 77 WABC. Hopefully warming up the airwaves for you and everyone listening all around the nation and around the world as we experience in the New York metro area and states to the New England region bitterly cold weather as we move into the deeper part of February 2026. As mentioned before, from the center of the universe, New York City, to all of you out there, whether you're listening to us on the West Coast or, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to us in various parts of the nation and around the world. We continue with the Dr. Sky Experience, and tonight's adventure for the next 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen, a very interesting subject that you may not be aware of, the story of the vanishing of the bees. Yes, indeed. Honeybees and pollination are so important to what goes on here in food production here on the entire planet. The planet that Carl Sagan called the pale blue dot. So much more to talk about here. But to get in on the conversation with our great guest, the conversation number, the hotline is 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. And as mentioned before, and proud to say it, we love of the four types of conversation. We love dialogue with critical thinking. And that indeed, ladies and gentlemen, takes us down the road to another edition of what we call Theater of the Mind. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, navigating this signal so it comes crisp and clear to you, no matter what form of multimedia you're listening to us on, from terrestrial radio, the internet, and in other forms and iterations of communication. The contact number is always 1-800-848-9222. You can email me at drsky, Dr. Sky, at wabcradio.com. And while we're at it, why not listen to previous editions? We hope you do, and the emails tell us you enjoy it, and we thank you for your participation. But what about all the other great hosts here 24/7 on this most powerful radio station? Simply go to wabcradio.com or redappleaudionetworks.com. The conversation, as we continue here, as we move through time and space, centers around what's happening in the world of the vanishing of the bees. A little information is important. Honey, produced by honeybees, of course, even in Egyptian tombs 3,000 years old, they are still edible honey. Bees communicate with a waggle dance. They try to do that to tell other bees about direction and distance of the food source, and honeybees have two stomachs, one for digestion and one for storing nectar. And how about this? Two sets of incredible wings, creating a static charge to let pollen stick to their furry bodies. But what's happening in this particular world? Our two guests, as we continue through time and space, one that I'm sure you'll enjoy, and one that's been with us for a long time. In just a moment, we'll be introducing Miriam Heine. Who is she? She's an author, an investigative journalist, an entrepreneur, and the director of the internationally acclaimed documentary, a film we'll talk about called Vanishing of the Bees, narrated by Ellen Page. She has written hundreds of handwritten articles spanning over the course of her 20-year career. Vanishing of the Bees, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about that, and hopefully also with another friend of ours from previous iterations of the Dr. Sky Experience, talk radio host Richard Dugan. He's a legally blind radio host, author, and producer known for his podcast and radio shows, Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. And with that, let's introduce our two guests as we continue to talk about a very important subject, ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, the vanishing of the bees. Miriam, welcome. Thank you for joining us on your evening. And we also welcome Richard Dugan. How are you both as we welcome you to the Dr. Sky Experience?
Good evening.
Doing very well.
Steve, thank you for having me.
I appreciate both of you. Miriam, let's start with you because I think this is so fascinating. About 6 months ago, my sister, who lives here in Arizona, also like myself, she sent me some information on you, and one of the highlights that I wanted to talk about, which we're doing right now, is the story about something that I've always been fascinated about. I see in our own garden here in Arizona, people all over the nation, all over the world, they've been seeing honeybees and bees for a long time, but interestingly enough, I'm seeing a lack of them, or some of them just crawling out into the street and hopefully not to perish. But that's the interesting part of this particular story. Tell us your passion for talking about the vanishing of the bees. When did this start? And educate us about why this is an important concern to every listener.
Yes, thank you. Honeybees pollinate on the three sides of our food and make the world a sweeter place, and we are the bees. Started looking into colony collapse disorder. I believe it was 2006, and I was looking to make a documentary with George Langworthy, and the bees started disappearing. And when I looked into the honeybees, the fact that they represent the divine feminine, all the work that they do and their significance, going back to ancient times, as you mentioned, honey doesn't go bad. And I started looking into the vanishing of the bees and came across the neonicotinoids. I was on the heels of having a near-death experience and wanted to be in service and make a difference, and ended up making a very seminal film to bring honeybees into the consciousness in regards to colony collapse disorders specifically, and 5 years traveling the world to try to figure out why they were disappearing, because there's a lot of different variables that dovetail into the bigger issue of neonics.
Yes, this is interesting, Miriam, and I just want to highlight something here. Honeybees and pollination. I mean, connect the two, because people may not realize this. I mean, obviously there's many smart people out there and people that are busy in their lives. But the whole concept of honeybees and pollination, this is where our food continues to come from in many ways, and people may not realize that. Spend a little time educating us on this whole connection between honeybees and pollination.
So there are several pollinators. Honeybees are the most, efficient or the most useful to humans, and everything from avocados to zucchinis. When you look into, in America or in North America, specifically the United States, honeybees are treated in a way like indentured slaves from one monoculture crop to the other. With almonds, blueberries, cranberries, watermelons, avocados. The issue is that we have monoculture. We have big ag and honeybees. So if you take them to the almond crop, for instance, there's honeybees that are being trucked from all over the United States to Bakersfield, California. California pollinates or provides 80% of the world's almonds. So they're feeding on one source as opposed to in nature where it's varied. So then they'll be taken to the next crop.
Amazing.
But that's not
fascinating
the way,
story, Miriam. Yeah. No, this is very interesting as we continue here, but I want to jump a little bit on the gears here. I want to bring in Richard Dugan, of course, a good friend of ours. He's been with us many times talking about so many things in the spiritual world. But, Richard, you also took a good look at this, and you watched it from front to end. Talking about this, your opinion of what you saw about this whole thing? It's a crisis in many people's minds, vanishing the bees. Your thoughts on this? Could you give us a little insight?
Sure. Well, I did see it from beginning to end, and based upon my understanding, as well as what I saw in the video or the documentary, we got a serious problem. And if we don't address it, we're going to run out of food, we're going to be eating things that we really shouldn't be, and so forth. And the thing that really struck me was when it came to trying to identify the cause, I'm wondering if there has been a comparison between what we're doing in this country and what other countries are doing, if in fact they're having the same issue, which it appears that they are, with this whole honeybee issue, and that it is so important that we deal with this, because they say, on the one hand, as we move forward, there's going to be fights over water and this and that and the other. It ain't going to matter. Water's not going to be irrelevant.
Exactly.
We do not have the foods that we need. So
from the micro world, this is so important.
Yeah.
But I want to have Miriam respond to what you're saying, Richard, because,
please,
this is an eye-opening documentary, and people can obviously see it. Miriam, I saw it off of YouTube. You say Netflix. How else can people see this? So if we give homework here on the Dr. Sky Experience, here's something if you're fascinated by this topic. How do they get to see this? I saw it on YouTube, but what other ways can people go and watch this?
That's not legal technically for someone to pirate a documentary. They can get an actual DVD on honeycolony.com if they want to get it directly from the filmmaker. And we had made it available as part of the trust of the money that we raised, just to touch on Richard's point. I mean, we're already there. The honey colony collapse disorder became, I guess, popularized or came into purview in 2006, 2007. The honeybees continued to die. The food supplies we're already not eating wholesome, nutritious food due to the soil, due to the pesticides. And neonicotinoids are newfangled pesticides. The organophosphates used to be sprayed on, so you used to see the bee kill, where the neonics are enrobed in the seed or entrenched into the soil, and then uptake into the entire plant, and then the honeybees take it back to the hive, and it impacts further generations. I just want to clarify that
yes, please.
It's no longer Ellen Page, it's Elliot Page. Well, just to not, they call it dead name. Yes. So this is ongoing. As far as I consciously wanted to travel around the world to bring light to this happening all over. It's just that in the United States, there's monoculture and trucking, whereas let's say in France, they had started seeing colony collapse disorder prior, and noticed that it was these newfangled pesticides that were ruining hives. So when you have beekeepers independently in different parts of the world coming to the same conclusion, it's empirical data, it's anecdotal, it actually has merit, and the bees unfortunately are continuing to die. 70% of commercial honeybees have been dying in 2025, so far beyond typical losses. And this is an ecological and agricultural disaster in the making, especially for crops that rely on honeybee pollination like almonds, strawberries.
Right. And Miriam, we talk about these subjects here. We talk about great mysteries, and that's one of these mysteries that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. So I want to see if our illustrious helmsman can actually cue up the introduction to this particular documentary so people might get a little better flavor of exactly when we talk about honeybees, what's the role of each individual bee in there. So let's see if we can cue that up and just hear that, because I think it's a good segue. Let's go to that particular clip, ladies and gentlemen.
From the dawn of civilization, the honeybee has symbolized hard work, unity, and cooperation. These furry insects live in colonies where every bee works for the good of the whole. At the heart of a colony of thousands, there is but one queen. While she lays eggs, her daughters, the worker bees, run the hive, taking on different roles during their lifespan. Nurse bees care for the queen and baby bees. Guard bees protect the hive from invaders, and forage bees venture out from the hive to gather food and water to share with their colony. Honeybees from one hive can visit more than 100,000 flowers in a single day. Finding a flower in bloom, a honeybee collects pollen for food and nectar to make honey. The sweet nectar and nourishing pollen are her reward for carrying out one of the most important tasks in nature, pollination.
Pollination is primarily dependent upon either of two factors, insects or the wind. The bee's body picks up pollen grains as it brushes against the anthers in a flower. When the bee alights on another flower, the pollen adhering to its body rubs off onto the stigma of that flower.
The success of the flower depends upon that moment of fertilization. Inside, the part that remains is the single cell that was formed by fertilization.
Let's continue with our special guest, Miriam Heine. She's joining us, ladies and gentlemen. She is also an investigative journalist, entrepreneur, and the director of this particular documentary, Vanishing of the Bees. And also joining us is Richard Dugan, radio host on the West Coast. He, of course, with his powerful program, Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. You know, both of you, I just wanted to talk about this for a second. The amazing structure of these insects is incredible. And I'm reading this, ladies and gentlemen. Bees are also thought, the honeybees, that they can actually recognize human faces. This is something even more powerful. And they have two compound eyes that can detect moving objects 5 times faster than a human. And they also have 3 simple eyes used to navigate by the sun. And bees can see in the ultraviolet region of the spectrum. They're red blind. They have hairs growing out of their eyes used to detect wind direction. Miriam, wow, what a creature, huh? And what a valuable creature to the world that we don't see much of anymore. I remember seeing bees in my neighborhood, but I don't see anymore. So this is a serious thing, and I wonder what the listeners out there have to say. Maybe there's beekeepers out there or people who've wanted to get into this particular, not necessarily for profit, but they also love the concept of honeybees. Your calls are welcome at 1-800-848-9222. Talk about the structure of the honeybee. I mean, it's just like an amazing, if it were like a drone, and that's an insult to a beautiful insect like that, it's amazing what the great creator and whatever our beliefs are. Wow, what a powerful little flying machine, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so in a hive, 90% are female, and they each have a role. They work together to make, our world a sweeter place. The queen bee lives her life in darkness, really. She only goes out once for her nuptial light and mates with up to 30 drones. The drones, from a Rudolf Steiner perspective, it takes 24 days to create a drone, and the female worker bees, in a way, it is like the original Virgin Mary, because to make a female, you don't need fertilization, and then it's 21 days to make a worker bee, and the queen bee is 16 days. She's taken off of a pollen diet and then fed royal jelly, and then the queen bee used to live up to 5 years, which, as far as insects goes, that's a really long time compared to the worker bee that's 6 weeks. And they are making a mechanical honeybee due to the issues with pollination. And the honeybees also have, even the fact you mentioned the ultraviolet spectrum. It was said that honeybees can identify royalty. Well, I'm always happy when a honeybee lands on me out of the blue, which has happened endless times. If you've seen the movie Jupiter Ascending, where Mila Kunis is just a maid, but when the bees land on her, it's discovered that she's a galactical queen.
Amazing. Miriam, whatever you've done with your phone, please stay there, because we could hardly hear much of the conversation to our listeners out there, which we value greatly around the nation and the world. So wherever you're sitting, stay right there, because we now can hear you in a much better octave than we could before. Richard, I know you had a few other questions from the documentary. Please continue before we go to the bottom of the hour. We have so much to share with our listeners here about this particular subject called colony collapse disorder, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think this is just a light subject, think again, because if all of our food in this particular world that we live in, maybe not necessarily giant corporate agricultural companies, which we'll get into the conversation of pesticides, this is something very fascinating because according to many, Miriam, that if we stopped having pollination, how quickly would our food supply dwindle? And if that's even a fair statement, what would you say?
Well, absolutely. I mean, in parts of China, they are hand pollinating, and I'm sure they created a mechanical honeybee because of the fact that the bees are continuously dying. In a hive, let's say there's 50,000 honeybees, like the queen is looked at as a baby-making machine because she can lay up to 2,500 eggs a day. However, the queen has also taken a hit because of all the variables, the number one thing being the neonicotinoids, and just the way, like I said, they're treated like indentured slaves. And even when you truck a hive from one state to the other, just, there's, remember at the bottom of the 18-wheelers, there's just a carpet of carcasses of dead honeybees. So It's just not natural to truck them around from state to state, but that's how we have food production.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to everything we do here, and it's amazing. Again, I'm not against corporate agriculture. I mean, I have no right to say that. I mean, I go to the grocery store like everybody does, hopefully, or maybe some people grow their own food. But what's interesting about this whole conversation is, where did the bees go? And let's get into one of those theories, and I want Richard to join us in a few moments, too. I did not mean to cut you off there, Richard, but I wanted to hear what Miriam had to say. But where do these bees just go? I mean, the queen obviously stays behind, or does everybody vacate due to this thing called colony collapse disorder?
No, the queen stays behind. There's usually some baby bees, and that was the mysterious aspect of it all, of like, where do the honeybees go? And if a beekeeper opens up the hives and the honeybees have absconded, it's not natural for the bees to not make it back to the hive. A honeybee can only live without her hive for more than 24 hours. So if the navigational capabilities are very much compromised due to these poisons, and arguably they don't make it back to the hive at the end of the working day, and that is still a mysterious aspect or a shocking aspect when a beekeeper, like the main beekeeper David Hackenberg in our movie, and early on you could see him opening up hives, and he's shocked. And yeah, I also purchase food. I try to go to the farmer's market. But back in the day, we used to each have a hive. Luckily, after Vanishing of the Bees came out, there was a revival of garden beekeepers. And even in Los Angeles, where I was living at the time, they had banned beekeeping due to the Africanized honeybee. And there's still many companies that claim that they're saving the bees if someone calls a hive, but they'll end up just destroying them, and it's just about having reverence for our food, reverence for these pollinators and other pollinators, and not taking things for granted when we rely on them, and they do make this world a sweeter place.
Absolutely. You say it so well. I'm going to pitch this out to our audience out there. Folks, is anybody out in the listening audience involved with beekeeping? And your comments for anybody who's not. The importance of this particular subject, our food supply and our food chain. Many mysteries to come, ladies and gentlemen, about why colony collapse disorder is going on, not only here in the United States, but around the world. And just to reiterate, our very special guest for the 2 hours on this edition of the Dr. Sky Experience, Miriam Heine. She, of course, the author, investigative journalist, entrepreneur. She's behind Vanishing of the Bees, this particular documentary. And Richard Dugan, a West Coast radio host. Knowing him for years, he's been with us talking about more spiritual sides of things, which are so important. His story and his program, Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. 1-800-848-9222 as we move deeper, ladies and gentlemen, into the bitterly cold night in much of the central eastern United States and Canada. And how about this? Time to warm up with a warm beverage and maybe have some honey there. Nature's gift from the honeybee here on the Dr. Sky Experience. We will be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Only when the last tree has died and the last river been poisoned and the last fish has been caught will we realize that we cannot eat money. A quote a long time ago from the Cree Indian Nation. As we continue here, folks, 32 minutes after the hour, your calls welcome on this very interesting subject, at least from our perspective. This, we're finding out, the vanishing of the bees. Have you noticed this in your own garden, ladies and gentlemen? I know obviously now is not necessarily the best time of the year to talk about the bees flying around, but the problematic thing has been the vanishing of the bees. Joining us is Miriam Heine and also Richard Dugan, a talk show host, a good friend of ours, who talks about more of the spirituality side of things as we explore these great mysteries. Richard, I know you had a couple of questions for Miriam as we move forward. Please continue.
Sure. First of all, a great song to listen to, folks, goes back to the late, the early 70s. Whose Garden Was This by John Denver. You got to listen to that song. My question, Temple Grandin had a great innovation for the livestock industry. I have never seen in nature, Marianne, a hive that was shaped like a box. For me, there's a problem right there that we are housing these insects, because that's what they are, in unnatural surroundings to start with, and then we question as to why they're disappearing. And that's another comment, too, that the comment was constantly being made that they have disappeared, and yet one person said that they're dead, but you don't see any bodies. So we don't know where they're going, and
Correct.
My wife and I, we both watched the video, and she basically commented, as I did, the bees basically said, we're not going to allow you to do this to us. We are out of here. Your comment?
Did we lose Miriam?
Uh-oh.
No, I'm here.
Okay. If you can just get closer to your phone, I think so everybody can hear you. We're having a little difficulty with your communication line there. But please continue. If you were moving around, please stay at that octave if you can. Go ahead.
Okay. So it's not natural to put bees in a box, and it's part of the problem. If you look at the creation of the Langstroth hive, and if you look at how bees are treated in permaculture or organic beekeeping. So there again goes back to reverence and having respect for the honeybees, but you stated not to criticize corporate agriculture, and we are all thankful for the food that we receive and are able to purchase. Mm-hmm. However, yes, it's not a mindful way to. It's part of the problem because these are monocultures. So even the land, the soil is not properly tilled. Is not the way it used to be back when we had topsoil. It's part of a bigger problem.
So when we look at the whole colonies of bees, like Richard was saying before about they're all gone, we don't see any bodies. I'm fascinated by some of the theories here, too, and I'd like to explore those with both of you. I mean, more so Miriam because of your research, and Richard for your commentary. Is it possible, Miriam, that with all the electromagnetic spectrum that we've got going on here, we have, if you and I could see in the field of electromagnetic spectrum, radio waves and all these different microwaves, would you also say, or could you say, that this is also maybe one of the plausible problems other than what we'll get into with pesticides? What about electromagnetic interference to these wonderful creatures that fly around? They navigate with such amazing finesse. What say you?
What say I? Well, they are amazing creatures. If you look at the honeybee, it's very sensitive, right? There has been a lot of cell towers. We addressed this in the documentary, where the honeybees are still there. Now, of course, we're all being bombarded by electromagnetic frequencies, and they are impacting us, and honeybees are environmental indicators. So they are the canary in the coal mine. What I say to begin with.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I look at this. Not only do insects suffer from this, we've had many people here in the ornithology world talking with us about the wonderful beauty of birds in ornithology. And without going down that path too deeply, we just find out that birds have also been very much affected by these radio frequencies in their ability to navigating by the stars. So I'm just fascinated to continue on that. Is there any research that you can share with us that says conclusively that might be one of the reasons too, in addition to what we'll get into, is probably what you're saying, the main culprit, without letting the cat out of the bag, is this induction of multiple pesticides into the crops that these mega, farming communities are doing across the nation.
Yeah, you bring up a good point that the pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, when we interviewed scientists and looking at 1 grain of pollen that has up to at least 8 different chemicals in it, and when they synergize, they become 1,000 times more dangerous, and it's death by 1,000 cuts. So I have not looked at the latest research. We address it in the movie. As far as the cell phones. Things have obviously amped up a lot given the surveillance nation that is underway. So it's really death by 1,000 cuts.
Right, and I get really excited about this, Miriam, because, we don't really hear about this stuff. And the whole premise of this radio show has always been to talk about, whether it be astronomy, space, aviation, weather, and such. We want to talk about the great mysteries that are out there. So this one popped up in my head, and it's just amazing because when you see such an important element, the honeybee and pollination, and what's going on with these mega, the farming industry right now, I mean, my goodness, some of these machines, I mean, they serve a purpose to be able to pull more crop out of the ground. But let's get into this conversation. We've got a few more minutes before the next break, too. This whole concept, where did all this whole concept of pesticides come from? I mean, I'm reading a little bit about in World War I, it was shifted from wartime, mustard gas and all these other poisons, to then moving it into what they thought. And maybe there is some value to this. I don't know enough about it. Pollination slowed down or interrupted with the bees by pesticides. Talk about when pesticides became something. DDT, for example. They were spraying neighborhoods with DDT years ago. My God. To spray people. That's horrible.
It is horrible, but there was a campaign, DDT is good for me, and been bamboozled many times over. The human species is resilient, but we are the bees. And it is frightening. After the war, that we started waging war against insects and the industrialization of things, including farming. So we're dealing with having to feed a big population. However, we didn't used to do that before industrialization. So these chemicals were taken from one use, and then they impact us. They impact the bees. Like I said, we are the bees.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's interesting. The WABC News Department, we just heard during the break at the bottom of the hour, indication about processed food. I mean, my goodness, how much more do we have to take before we become, glowing in the dark ourselves? And people should be outraged by all this stuff. And I'm amazed, I mean, not just particularly on this particular show, but if people have comments and questions about this, here's the time, ladies and gentlemen, and here's the guests, and particularly with Miriam. 1-800-848-9222. You, of course, can express your opinions on this and what the opinions we're looking for. With everything going on with the honeybee, with the whole thing of this colony collapse disorder that's real, and also the things that we just talked about before. And we'll get into deeper pesticides that are out there. My gosh, I mean, what do you have to do nowadays? I mean, the food that we eat, I don't know if it's too secure. Obviously, the understatement of the entire show.
Well, looking from a spiritual perspective, I mean, the onslaught of different chemicals that's impacting 1 in every 3 people has a chronic illness, and now with the economy and people struggling, I mean, food is definitely has taken a hit as far as quality. I mean, you could argue that even the organic farming is corrupted now, and these pesticide lobbyists, big pharma, big ag, and they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's the understatement out there. But I'm more concerned, and I'm sure many people listening out there, what the heck's happening with our food? I mean, all these processed foods, don't eat them. Well, you eat them if you want to, but they say they're no good for you. And then we get down into the deeper part of this whole thing, where we're looking at all these particular gigantic, mega corporate farming. They're doing all these things with pesticides, so it's more about producing more bushels per square acre constantly. But what's in that stuff? I mean, genetic engineering is another subject we could go down that path. But the reality is, how much, in your opinion, if you know this, in the agricultural world, have we modified the entire corn in itself? I mean, we hear about GMO products all the time. We hear about genetically modified corn and all these other things. What? With the use of pesticides, or that's a whole different subject?
No, it's all connected. All connected, Steve. That's looking at it in a holistic way. I mean, this movie came out in 2011. It came out in the UK first, and then it came out here. This has been ongoing. And again, I go back to We Are the Bees and having reverence. Where's the sacredness in our food supply? But this is, again, big money at the end of the day. Yeah.
No, more on this, ladies and gentlemen, with your questions and comments. Of course, you go right to the front of the line, because this is an important subject, not because we're telling you that, but because many others who have dug into this, and the research continues, what is happening with the vanishing of the bees, this in particular syndrome known as colony collapse disorder. 1-800-848-9222. We'd love to hear what you say and what you have to say regarding these subjects. We will, of course, be right back on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Bees do have a smell, and if they don't, they should, for their feet are dusted with spices from 1,000,000 flowers. This quote from the great science fiction writer, the genius himself, Ray Bradbury. 47 minutes after the hour, we continue with our two special guests, Miriam Heine and, of course, Richard Dugan, radio talk show host. And now let's go to the callers because, wow, they're lighting it up big time here. Let's say good morning right now to Pamela in New Jersey. How are you on this cold morning? Thanks for joining us. Your questions.
Good morning. Wish I was gardening in a warm atmosphere.
Absolutely.
I live in an older neighborhood where there used to be gardens. Now everybody fills in their yard with cement. And I've had plants to absorb rainwater, and to attract bees and butterflies. But today, the children, as well as their parents, are too busy being couch potatoes, watching computers all day. And when they go for a walk past my house, they panic. The mothers panic and the children's panic because they see a bumblebee. And I tell them, there's nothing to fear with the bumblebee. They're too busy eating these flowers, using these flowers to pollinate. And without them, we won't have food. I actually have to talk them down from their hysteria.
See?
And my other neighbor came down to my house one day and proudly said, "Oh, I killed a bunch of bees. I was afraid of them biting my children."
Oh, that's terrible.
I walk right up to the bees with garden boots on. They're too busy dealing with their flowers to bother with me. And it's almost like they know me, because, like you said. And I've noticed, over the years, I did see a monarch butterfly, a couple monarch butterflies.
And they're hard to see too, Pamela, right? You bet. They're not everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. That's
and
amazing.
I do, but I've seen off years and on years, but it's definitely getting harder, and they seem disoriented. Like a lot of times, all right, if there's a chill in the air, they will sit down on the cement to get some heat from the sun. And okay, I'm used to that. But I sense this year, and I know about the bees dying, and I just noticed that they're a little, they seem a little off,
Well, Pamela, thanks for being, stay with us. Thanks for being a defender of the bees, but I want Miriam and or Richard to jump on this, but particularly Miriam. Go ahead, please. Pamela brings up some really, I think, so pertinent topics. Don't kill the bee. I mean, the thing is not attacking you. But go ahead, Miriam, please.
I'd like to say that we created an educational version with a curriculum to educate children. It was important to George Langrisey and myself, and that I encourage people. We were doing a Be the Change campaign where you can pay a screening fee and use the curriculum and teach the children. I believe, again, this dovetails into a bigger problem if we're having fear of the natural world. The bee is pollinating, she's minding her own business, and there's a bigger transhumanist agenda at hand, and for us to have a connection to the natural world is very important. Parents,
you say it so well. Yeah. You say it so well, Miriam.
Instill that.
Time is of the essence here. Pamela, God bless. Thank you for defending the bees. Let's continue as many callers. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do not get to you in this hour, we'll continue, obviously, in hour number 2. But in due respect to those that are on the line, let's say good morning to Jacqueline in Brooklyn. Jacqueline, thank you for joining us on this cold morning. How are you this morning?
I'm trying to keep warm, and I thank you very much, Steve, for having your guest, Marianne, discuss this topic. I have several questions, if you don't mind. Number one, I'd like to know the name of the movie or the documentary that you were talking about earlier in the program. And also, I'd like to know, Marianne, I have several questions for you. Is the colony collapse more prevalent in certain parts of the United States than others? And I tell you the reason I'm asking that question.
Okay.
Part of it is a selfish reason. I'm actually interested in beekeeping. My plans are to move to the Northwest, and I was thinking of incorporating that. I'd like to do some organic growing for myself personally, and also for a business venture. Right. And now that I'm becoming educated about, I never thought about this before, about the bees being kept in boxes. Is it possible to do beekeeping and have a hive? Because I understand you can purchase bees. And I myself would not be doing the beekeeping. I'd be looking to hire a professional beekeeper to help me in my endeavors. The other thing is, I also understand it's not only the insecticides that are causing this problem, but also some predator insects as well.
Jacqueline, you bring up some amazing subjects here. And in the interest of time, I hate to cut you short, Jacqueline. You'll have to take the answer off air as we go to the top of the hour. Miriam, lots of amazing callers that we got here with great questions. Please continue.
What would you like for me to address first in the comments?
Well, I think she was talking about,
a lot of different things.
Go ahead, Jacqueline, if you're still with us, please summarize those points. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Several questions. Number one, is the colony collapse more prevalent in certain parts of the country other than others? Because I'm interested in doing beekeeping in the Northwest. And also, is it possible?
Let's do one answer at a time. So,
yeah, go ahead. Let's take colony collapse. Go ahead.
I haven't tracked where CCD is more prevalent as of late. Obviously, looking at where there is a lot of monoculture farming, and it doesn't really matter where you are if you're able to. Obviously, winter is a factor to have bees, to bring beekeeping into the forefront. Beekeeping, commercial beekeeping, is a lot about trickery, in a sense, fooling them to make babies when it's not the time. If it's a lot of the bees die during the winter because it's so cold. So it's just, again, having reverence towards the honeybee and educating no matter where. There's garden clubs, beekeeping. This movie has been out. There was a national campaign. Vanishing of the Bees is the movie that you can get on honeycolony.com. You can do a search for DVD or Vanishing of the Bees, and it'll come out. And, okay, what's your next question?
Jacqueline, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay.
I also understand that it's not only the insecticides, but also predator insects. And is there any way of beekeeping in a natural way so that they can have their natural hive rather than keeping them in a box?
Jacqueline, we always appreciate you. In interest of time, we're going to have Miriam just respond as you take your answer off air. But thank you for calling us, and hope you'll always be part of the Dr. Sky experience. Miriam, as we go to the top of the hour, your response.
We talk about different ways to keep bees naturally. And again, if it looks to do a search for organic beekeeping clubs, then you can use different types of the top bar hive, and not the Langstroth. So it's touched upon in the documentary Vanishing of the Bees. And again, you can screen the copy. You can contact me at Miriam, MARYAM, at honeycolony.com. If you're interested in a screening or the educational version, there is a screening fee, and you can help spread the buzz on the importance of the honeybees.
Well, that's interesting, and as we, of course, will not complete all the callers in this hour, so ladies and gentlemen, please stand by if you so would like to get involved in the conversation. If obviously we don't get to you in the hour one, but hour two continues. We're going to dig much deeper into this, ladies and gentlemen, about what are some of the other possibilities of the causation here for this, entire colony collapse disorder as it's described, because this is a powerful thing. I mean, I've watched bees. You've all watched bees out there, and Pamela said it well. Some people today just covering up the garden with cement or concrete, and then the children getting maybe the wrong information for sure, swat the thing. It's not necessarily looking to harm you. And these honeybees are what? They're too busy working. They don't want to bother you, so let them do their job. Richard, I gather you're still with us. We haven't forgotten you. I hope you're still on the line. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing fine. I guess my thought here in regards to what we've discussed thus far is this. The main purpose for I'll use the broad term, the bee industry, is to pollinate so we have fruits and vegetables, not to gather honey, pollen, propolis, or any of the other products that they provide. I have a feel, and I was watching that video, I'm going, what is that white substance they're sprinkling on those boxes? I don't know what that was.
And I didn't know what the smoke was, Miriam. What's the smoke? What does that do? They're putting smoke into the hive?
Oh.
I don't get that.
When they smoke the hive, then the honeybees think that there's fire, and they put honey in their bellies, and they're less likely to move. So it's a calming mechanism. I think what you're referring to, the white powder, was a concoction that included some miticides. And so that's not an organic method. Again, this goes back to just having reverence, sacredness for the natural world, for food, for ourselves, and it's just part and parcel of big ag and the way in which we farm in order to feed so many people.
Well, what I got out of this hour, from both Richard and Miriam, is we have a crisis here, and it's not to over-exaggerate it, that the bees are doing something that they weren't doing a long time ago. Causation could be what? Pesticides. I talked about the possibility of radio frequency interference with bees, just like birds. And then other callers, like Jacqueline, has brought up the possibility of different mites or other insects in that area. And this is all really serious, ladies and gentlemen, and much more as we continue on the Dr. Sky Experience. And for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, that haven't gotten on, Miriam in Indiana, Agnes in New Jersey, and Stella in Queens, yes, we will, of course, get to you, and thank you ahead of time for your patience on the Dr. Sky Experience. 1-800-848-9222. We will be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hour number 2, ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. Sky Experience. You and your questions and comments always welcome here, as we call this particular program and each one of the shows Theater of the Mind. What does that mean? That means we'd love to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen, since we're in the form of radio in that electromagnetic spectrum. We, of course, would like you to give us a call about the topics of the day. 1-800-848-9222. And we love those in the conversational mode of dialogue with a little bit of spice of critical thinking. What are we talking about in tonight's adventure? The Vanishing of the Bees. Our very special guest, Miriam Heine. She's here with us and talking about this documentary, Vanishing of the Bees. If you're just joining us, all over the world, people are seeing this phenomenon. What's the causation? It could be many, many things. And also joining us is radio talk show host on the West Coast, Richard Dugan. Tell me your stories, new paradigms for a new world. Miriam, thanks for staying with us. I know it's early in the morning for many, but we're all pros at this, and we appreciate you. Let's continue with the callers because they rule, and they've had the patience of hanging on the line. Let's go to Marianne, who's in Indiana. Marianne, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. I was calling about the bees and everything, and yes, my husband, he was a park ranger, and we live in the middle of the city, and he put up cedar trees. He planted cedar trees and around for like border fences and everything, and there was a live hive in the tree, and he called the beekeeper, and he came out and retrieved it, and he said that I guess he just took the queen bee, and the other bee, the drones just followed, and it just went right into the hive, and the beekeeper knew how to capture it and stuff.
Wow.
But it was really amazing.
It's amazing. So from Marianne
I believe
to
that
Marianne.
We have a lot of urban sprawl here, and they're tearing down all the trees and everything, and the bees don't have anywhere to go.
Well, that's a good point. So like I mentioned before, from Marianne to Miriam, your comment on this. You're seeing people all over the world are interested in this subject. Your response to Marianne.
Well, again, it's part of a bigger problem. You live in an industrialized world where things are mass manufactured, and there is, people are unable to afford rent. The economy is being plummeted, but yet there's more construction than ever, and the natural world is being disappeared. This has been long in the coming since the release of Vanishing of the Bees, and it is up to us to be the change that we want to see in whatever small ways. It starts with just even buying organic honey. We list solutions in the end of the movie because we want to empower people and for people not to feel helpless. And again, if there is an industrialization surveillance nation underway, and imagine when all these drones are going to be in the air. So
that's another subject, right? That is another subject of great importance. But Marianne in Indiana, thank you for being patient and staying with us in this early morning for everybody on this particular subject. Let's continue to move on. But I say it this way, and I got this actually from your documentary, and I think, Richard, you'd probably agree on it too. And here I am quoting. One of the guests in the documentary said, you should vote with your fork 3 times a day on food safety. How apropos, because what you're putting in your mouth, and we're talking about what? Possible causation and connection between bees moving out, dying out, moving away from the hive, because of who knows, maybe there's voluminous amount of pesticides. That's amazing. Well, what say you? Richard, how about you? I mean, that's a powerful comment. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it is. And it's astounding to me. I'm just curious as to where the current administration is on this issue, and are other governments starting to step in and say, look, we better deal with this, or there isn't going to be a country on the planet that's going to be great.
Yeah. And the poor bees can be the victim, but we're also at the end of that train track, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's amazing.
Exactly. We're heading down that tunnel with the train coming right at us.
Let's hear from you, Miriam, on that. That's a powerful one, voting with your fork, getting it right from your documentary, and, of course, vanishing of the bees.
Again, on the local level, wherever you live, to bring beekeeping to the forefront, to educate the children, to vote with your fork, to make better decisions for your body temple. And I'm not able to speak on the different governors or mayors or their stance. One has to look and be active and help educate others. People are struggling to eat. I don't even know if they're eating real food. If you do eat real food, to have gratitude. And again, this is part of a bigger encompassing issue.
Well, it sure is. I mean, look at the whole concept that we're talking about, the WABC News Department bringing up a subject in the last hour, the bottom of the hour, hour 1, where we're talking about processed foods. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I eat wrong, probably. I should want to eat right. And so many people out there have different opinions on this. As we move on through time and space, though, ladies and gentlemen, let's say hello to the callers that have been very patient. Agnes in New Jersey, good morning on this cold morning. You're on with our very special
guy. I was born in 1943, and in 1947, my father bought the first little bungalow at the beach, and we used to experience seaplanes coming over, spraying everything with DDT because there were a lot of mosquitoes. However, we used to have very good barriers with the weeds and everything, and now I'm 82, and whales have been dying in the ocean because of the pollution in the ocean, and a lot of the chemicals and the windmills that are in the ocean have been giving off certain electronic things in the ocean. We've had more whales die. However, we had beautiful weeds when I first had this little bungalow that I'm living in now, and I marveled at the flowers and everything at the beach, and weeds were protecting, and the ecosystem and the foliage was so beautiful. And my grandmother came from Lithuania, and she always had a garden, but nothing would grow when these airplanes came over. And
Agnes, that's terrible. I mean, I don't even understand it. I mean, I grew up I was born in 56, but I remember living back in the New York area there. Who knows? Maybe we were all sprayed like you're talking about. But Miriam, describe to us about DDT. I mean, maybe you're not a chemist on this, but the horrible effects of this, I mean, Agnes is talking about it. That's just horrible what they did to spray neighborhoods. I was watching your video, and they were going through San Antonio, Texas, as if you're driving down the street, spraying everything all over the place. It gets into your house. Tell us more about DDT if you can. That's a horrible thing.
Well, Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring. She was integral in forming the Environmental Protection Agency that David Hackenberg says the environmental protection, whatever. And DDT, as I mentioned earlier, was a literal campaign. DDT is good for me. Mm-hmm. That's why children were getting exposed, and only to find out that it was integral in causing lots of birth defects.
No, I mean, it's a horrible thing. If you look back in time, they hit us with so many of these different chemicals, and what, still to this day, the causation and connection that we're going to bring up even in more detail. Vanishing of the bees, one big culprit, of course, we're repeating it so everybody can hear it clear and loud and clear, that of pesticides. Agnes in New Jersey, thank you for being part of the show. I appreciate your time. Let's move on to Stella in Queens, if she's with us. Stella, good morning. You've been patient. Your observation.
Yeah, because this really bothers me. I received something in the mail complaining about the Bayer company doing things to kill bees. I don't know where I put the thing now, but I receive a lot of things like this.
Yes.
And, I mean, if you remember a while back when we had West Nile virus, they would go around the neighborhoods and spray for that, too. So no matter where you live, you're getting hit with something, and it's not something good. And I have bees that come to the front of my fence because I'm in Queens, so I'm in it's a busy place. It's not just quiet.
Right, a lot of traffic. Right, a lot of traffic.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
and they come and they sit there in the front. They never bother me. Never. And they've never bothered me. They're interested in what they're doing, whether they're looking to pollinate there or what, I don't know. If I could help them and if I knew the right things to do, I would want to help them because I really feel, not only for our diets, but I feel sorry for them. They don't know where to go.
That's exactly right. And if we don't talk about this kind of subject, nothing will happen, right? It'll just go into history. Imagine people in the future 100 years later, Stella, that see in some kind of museum, that was a honeybee. Well, what do you mean that was a honeybee? Well, they're gone. They're extinct, and that's a horrible thing. Look at our food production and the pollination. Miriam, we get the great callers here. Your commentary to Stella, and she's right on. You know, she has a heart. She wants to do this. She wants to bring the bees, into her neighborhood. Look at all the trouble that they have with all the commotion.
And anyone else, you can reach me at Miriam, Maryam, at honeycolony.com to connect and further. Bear, yes, I got my first death threat.
Have you really?
Willing to listen on Bear. Oh,
you got repeat that. I couldn't hear you. You got a death threat regarding what? Say that again.
Got a veiled threat to watch my tires if I was going to blow the whistle on Bear.
Oh boy, this is powerful stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, look, this particular radio show, we're trying.
It's the iceberg when it comes to the bee lady.
Well, I hear you, my friend. But let's continue with the callers because time is limited here, and then we want to get as many people in to express their opinion and ideas. We say good morning to Pete in Staten Island. Good morning. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, Doctor. Hello. Good morning. Dr. Sky, it looks like the birds did not go south this year. I mean, a lot of them. I feed cats, and I got robins and the sparrows coming down. And I feed them extra. I put food, dry food, and they come down. They come right over to me, like not even afraid. And the cold, I mean, I'm finding dead ones all over the place where I feed them.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Where I feed the cats. Yeah, and the cats ain't killing them. They're just like falling from the cold. But I don't know. I've seen so many robins and sparrows and blue jays, like they never left. I don't know. What it could be because we had all the warm weather that kept them here.
We don't know, and that's exactly why we do these programs, Pete, because we're trying to open up the answers, which hopefully we can get sometime with these mysteries that are out there. And this one, not only with the honeybees, But you've heard the program for many times. We've had people talking about birds and migration. And if I were going to be a betting man, my situation here would say there's something in addition to what Miriam is talking about and Richard commentating on, is that there's something in the electromagnetic area with all this spurious radiation in simple Earth. You got so many damn frequencies coming into these animals, insects, birds. Let's say that they're not getting interference from that. You bring up some good points, Pete. So let me have Miriam and Richard, either one of you, jump in because this is an open forum on the topic.
Well, I will say that
there's a lot of dysregulation in the natural world for various reasons. And, the electromagnetic interference does have an influence on all of us, whether you're a bee or a being. It's impacting us. And the sun, the Earth itself has an electromagnetic field.
Richard, you wanted to comment. Please continue.
Well, there's so many elements that were in that video that we haven't talked about, and it's just astounding to me that we're doing the same thing with these insects. And on the one hand, it's like I marvel at the ability to do what they're doing, and at the same time, I'm going, what do you mean they're doing artificial insemination on bees? Seriously? Obviously the final statement that I would make in this regard is follow the money. Follow the money.
Amen, my friend. Yes, exactly right. I mean, there's something going on here. And, and let me throw this out there to the audience, and maybe they have some opinion on this. The EPA, as we get into this, I don't know enough about this subject. Maybe people out there want to chime in on it. We got a full board of callers here, and that's an amazing story that we're talking about. What's the EPA doing about this? Miriam, would you have any commentary on the EPA? Have they looked at the connection between this, and what would they say is the causation? Is it more of the pesticides? Please continue on that. I think it's fascinating.
I will say I don't know what the latest is. I did participate in a rally protest outside of the Environmental Protection Agency years ago with Dennis Kucinich and
right, Dennis Kucinich, right?
I also I also worked with the working group in order to bring more awareness and education. I think that also interviewed the Environmental Protection Agency, and the publicist just shut down the interview once my questions got heated.
Wow. See, there's something going on that's it's kind of nefarious out there. We continue with the callers here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's say good morning to Dave in Pennsylvania. Your thoughts and comments on this to our guests.
Hi, Miriam. How for your email address, how would you spell your name? Is it with a Y or an I in the middle, or?
Yeah, give it out again, please.
Original Aramaic spelling of the Virgin Mary, Mary, AM as in Mary at honeycolony.com.
There you go. That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
and also, do you think that the bees, the queen bee, you mentioned how important, and a queen bee is important, could be inoculated if the chemical companies work on a chemical or drug from the maybe tropical rainforest or somewhere that would inoculate the queen bee from the pesticides, from neonicotinoids and their related chemicals for the last 20 years.
Dave, you brought up a term there. Tell us that term again, the neo, because this is what I want everybody to hear. And define that. I mean, both of you, both Miriam and Dave. What did you just say? What was that? Neonicotinoid? Is that what you just said?
Neonicotinoid. I can spell that, but I don't have to.
Neonicotinoids. Neonicotinoids.
Tell us what that is, folks, so we understand what this is. What is that?
Nicotine-based pesticides that are entrenched in the soil or enrobed in the seed, as opposed to organophosphates, which were sprayed. So again, it uptakes into the actual flower, and then the bees bring it back in the form of pollen and honey into the hive, and then impacts the future generations. So it's quite insidious.
Yes, it is. Dave, you had a question? I don't think we gave you a fair shake. Go ahead if you have a question.
If the queen had a better brood because she was somehow inoculated. They do tests on bees all the time. I'm reading a Tom Seeley book, if you don't mind, from Cornell Ithaca. Okay. And I'm getting into near the end of it, and they do tests on bees. They even put black dots on them, color them different colors. And I'm hoping this spring is a very nice spring for the flowers to grow, and all kind of different colors. And there is variation in the tropical rainforest.
Well, Dave, we appreciate your call. We got to jump down here because of the clock, but I do appreciate it. Miriam, your last commentary back to Dave. He's very well educated in this subject, and we appreciate that, bringing this to the forefront. Miriam, please continue.
On just the overall importance of the honeybees, or just what would you like me to comment on exactly?
Well, I think he was giving us some insight into some of the technical stuff. He's obviously well versed in what's happening with the whole bee colonies, and I think he was just expressing those opinions. Let's move forward. Time permits here to continue. Let's say now we move forward to say good morning to Christine in Greenwich Village. Good morning, Christine. You're on the air. How are you?
Good morning. What a great program.
Thank you.
I had an adventure with a queen bee, and you will not believe me, and I don't blame you. On East 9th Street, I've noticed through the years past that there's a bee doing a beeline, so I know that there's a hive somewhere on somebody's roof.
Right.
One day I was sitting in my apartment, and I saw a queen bee. They're big and furry, walking along the floor. I have a cat, and I was very worried. And I went over to the queen, and she seemed to be in a little bit of distress. So the bottom line was I tried to get her into a basket to get her back outside. Failed. The next day, to shorten this story, I found her under where I sit. I sit in the same place every day.
Okay.
She was crawling up my leg. She's a big, soft, furry feeling slowly as she was ascending my leg. I was worried about her wings because I didn't know if she'd had an altercation with my cat or not. And I looked at her and I wiggled my skin to make her fall off my leg, and she got on the floor. I covered her with a glass and slid a piece of paper under the glass to trap her in the glass. My intention was to open a window and get her free, which is what I did.
You're a good soul, Christine. Yeah, you're a good soul.
But this isn't the end of the story. The next day in the afternoon, I went down the next day to see if I could find her. Couldn't find her. The next day, about in the afternoon, I saw her again. She was in the window of my apartment, and she flew back and forth a few times. I swear to God, I believe she said goodbye.
Wow. What an experience. You had your own queen experience. That's incredible, Christine. Very well put. And, of course, saving the queen. Let's save the queen. There you go. And you did that. That's a noble effort. But being on a serious note, that is incredible what the queen is doing there. And it's interesting as we close out this particular half hour of hour two before we go to the hard break. If you think about this, both Richard and Miriam, not to get off on a silly side, but if you look at the whole concept of the sci-fi movie Aliens, look at that whole concept. Maybe they learned something from and modeled it right after the concept of how, the queen bee and the entire hive is set up. It is very similar in many, many ways. If you look at it, the big queen from the Alien, movie series and all that related. Very, very interesting. Folks, there's still plenty of time, and the contact number is always 1-800-848-9222. We promise we'll get into some of the more serious reasoning, at least what Miriam thinks and Richard about what's causation of what's going on here with what's happening in the world. And it's something important here on the Dr. Sky Show when we talk deeply about this whole problem that's happening in the bee world. Yes, as you're sleeping, ladies and gentlemen, this continues around the world. And if we want our food at least to be healthy or to have it through pollination, this is an amazing story to share with everybody in detail. You can go look at this on the World Wide Web and look at the concept of and the subject of colony collapse disorder. We'll be right back with you, ladies and gentlemen, here. If we haven't gotten to you like Lauren in New Jersey and others, we'll do our very best, as we always do here on the Dr. Sky Show, to let you have your opinion expressed here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
If the bee disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live. This particular quote from author Maurice Maeterlinck. 32 minutes after the hour, moving to the top of hour number 2. Still time, ladies and gentlemen, to get in on the conversation. 1-800-848-9222. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the disappearance and vanishing of the bees. She, of course, an investigative journalist, entrepreneur, and director of the internationally acclaimed documentary, as we mentioned, Vanishing of the Bees, Miriam Heine. And we're talking with Richard Dugan, radio talk show host on the West Coast of Tell Me Your Story. Let's continue on with the callers. They've been patient. Let's say good morning to Ted in Forest Hills. Ted, thanks. You're a regular caller, and thank you for being one. How you doing? Do we have Ted? Oh, Ted, are you with us? I guess not. Let's go to Lauren in New Jersey. Good morning, Lauren. Thank you for your patience. Please continue.
Good morning, and thank you for your wonderful shows and your guests.
Thank you.
It's such a crucial topic, and the bees have so much working against them. Like has been mentioned, I'm not saying anything new regarding the chemicals, the fertilizers, and these colored mulches that are now being used, and all the geoengineering. This is all contaminating our soil. And Audubon Society can give everybody help on focusing on planting more native plants. And I'd like to ask your guest about that. Trying to plant more native plants. And, for example, Rutgers Extension, like all this stuff is online, and you can find out most areas have the native plant societies. So to focus on those versus all these, these other things that, of course they're being sold in nurseries and big box stores, but
sure.
To focus more on those, and it's the importance of it. Yeah.
Good points, Lauren.
Weeds. Yeah, just like milkweed that used to grow rampantly along the sides of highways, and now it's all sprayed with the Roundup. So I plant tons of that, for the monarchs and everything. But it's such a crucial topic. Thank you, and I'll listen.
Lauren, always appreciate you. In many areas like urban areas, it's being all asphalted and concreted over, and no wonder the poor bees don't have a place. But Miriam, she's talking about planting, and what kind of plants would you recommend? Maybe some advice to give to Lauren.
I did do some screenings with the Audubon Society and also mentioned those solutions in the end of the film and in the educational curriculum in order to plant native, to choose native plants, and also to just even clover, things that attract the honeybees. And if you go to Home Depot to ask whether the plants that you're purchasing have neonics in them or treated. So absolutely, it's a great solution.
Interesting. We appreciate you so much, and thank you, Lauren, for your commentary and questions. Let's continue and say good morning to Michael in Queens. You're on the air with our special guest, Miriam Heine, and Richard Dugan. Please continue. Good morning.
Yes, hello, Dr. Sky.
Yes.
First and foremost, just some commentary. I'd like to acknowledge as a first-time caller my wonderful degree of enjoyment from your show since the inception of the program. I have been continuous in listening to it, hearing it, and your wide, broad spectrum range of topics has been extraordinary. It's very detailed, in-depth, and enlightening to a great degree to, I'm sure, the advanced individual as far as science understanding and research, as well as the intermediate and the novice. And that's a wonderful thing. It's a great contribution.
Thank you. You're so kind. And go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you short. I just wanted to say thank you.
No, anything you wish to say at any time.
No. Let me come back with this. Being humble and being, honest here, and that's the only way to be honest. It's an honor to sit behind this microphone, and I have to thank owner and operator John Katsimatidis and his family, and also from the executive staff, as I mentioned many times, Chad Lopez, trying to give us some other inspiration into these mysteries that we don't have the answers to. And if I was the answer man, I'd do this just by talking and talking and talking. So again, thank you, Michael. We try to bring the very best guest on this subject. Your question, please continue.
As I said, no questions particularly. It could be generalized as a question with the commentary that I'll actually lay upon. Natural resources. Sir, not only for the understanding of the topic for bees, but the entirety of natural resources. In a time and an era, and as an individual who is a great advocate of the science arts as well as the art world itself in so many subject matters, so much of the natural world, particularly the resources that are so dependent upon our existence, our survival, and for us to flourish as a species, is so wasted and so taken for granted. And we depend more and more upon technological advance, so forth and so forth, to the degree where soon we'll all be cybernetic organisms, or at least that's the proposed ideal of some of the elite.
God forbid, right?
I'm not a huge fan of that factor, but the fact is that it's a potentiality that is on the horizon. But at that expense, as wonderful a thing as technology is for so much of society and of human existence, at the expense of it, we become less understanding of the value of the natural resources that this world provides, and we waste it in expenditure for little to gain from it, from food supplies to other factors that we depend on and rely on for everyday function in society. We simply are wasting and a huge extraction of the earth and its resources, literally diminishing its potential to sustain us.
Wow, Michael, you said so much there. I want Richard to jump in on this, because your show, Richard, deals, definitely about the evolutionary path of where people are going with the, intercession of technology and all the other things to respond to Michael. Please continue.
Well, I think that more and more people are starting to wake up. I'm sorry to use that word, because that is the word that people are waking up. But I have a question for Marianne. Are you at all optimistic about the future of the bees, that we will eventually wake up as not just a country, but as a planet, and realize that it's not all over, that we can make a change, and that we will survive along with the bees?
Good question. Yeah, go ahead, Miriam. This is good.
Am I optimistic? Well, the film came out in 2011, so it's been more than a decade since. It's really an expansion of consciousness to be able to look at the bigger picture of what is going on. I like what that caller said, the potentiality of that on the horizon of the
Richard,
agenda.
Yeah, here we go, Richard. I wanted you to respond directly to Michael, and again, if he's on the air, I think this is more to the point, because he was bringing up things as you're hearing, and I heard you said something about the future of the world and the technology that's coming into intercession, which may make our lives even more complicated and totally become cyborgs. We don't want to do that. Your response to Michael, Richard. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. Every time we hit a crisis, and I'm going to go back to, I don't remember if it was the late 70s or into the 80s, we were all being made fearful of the infestation of the African bee, that it was dangerous, they would kill us, and so on and so forth. Didn't happen. I'm not saying this isn't happening. It is happening. But it seems as though when we hit these crises moments, we do seem to learn some things. COVID was a prime example of that, that we all stepped up to help one another. So, yes, I think that our technology, I mean, even Neil deGrasse Tyson says that AI is going to destroy the Internet. I have to half agree with him to one level, but I'm learning to use it. But at the same time, where I live now, I'm also learning to stay in touch with the earth, get my hands dirty, and do the things that need to be done. So I'm optimistic, and I hope that he is as well.
Well, Michael, thank you. We appreciate your questions here and observations and kindness to this radio show and this host. We really appreciate that. But what's so interesting here, ladies and gentlemen, as we talk about this with Miriam Heine and all the different people that are calling in on this subject, it's one that really, many people may be sitting there going, well, why are you talking about this? We could be talking about something, quote, more important. Well, I would tend to disagree as a host, because this whole thing, everything is interconnected. Having known one of the Apollo astronauts, and many of them personally, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, who was he? Apollo 14, said he had an out-of-body experience, was laughed at by the astronaut corps because the guys in the right stuff thought that was insane. How could somebody have an out-of-body experience? The point I'm making very quickly is that he had developed something, an MIT graduate, from something called the Noetic Institute. And what was it? He called it the quantum hologram. And how everything in this world is interconnected, as if you had like a big chart on the wall with all wiring diagrams. Everything's interconnected like an old telephone switch system. That is so amazing, because the little that we know as we dig deeper into the quantum world and then move out to the most distant of objects in the heavens, amazing stuff that we're hearing about. And when these creatures, the bees, these wonderful, developers of honey and manufacturing, they're like amazing. Where do they get the intellect from? Who created them? I mean, we could get into the God conversation. Time wouldn't permit. But look, an amazing kind of machine, if you want to call it. We copy them and try to make them drones and all things like that. 1-800-848-9222 as we move to the top of hour number 2. Questions that you have of me, this DRSKY, Dr. Sky at WABCRadio.com. And always a privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to share these thoughts with the great guest. And by the way, jumping into our time machine, looking into the future, we, of course, next week have a repeat appearance with another good friend of ours, another friend of the show, Patrick Wood, talking about technocracy and transhumanism. And I'm sure Michael in Queens, you'll be one of the callers, because that subject is most important. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, from this short break, we'll continue to talk with Miriam about some of the ideas that go deeper into what the causation might be of what's happening to the bees, as her particular documentary, Vanishing of the Bees, comes to the front of the Dr. Sky Experience. We will be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
47 minutes after the hour, moving to the top of hour number 2, time and space. That's what we talk about here. And yes, in this particular iteration, we're talking about something fascinating here, Vanishing of the Bees, with 2 special guests. Let's complete as much as we can the caller board. Let's say good morning to Ted in Forest Hills. Ted, thanks for your patience. Thanks. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to say, I got disconnected before. Our enemy is making Ebola germs in mice around the country. That's China. I would think that if China could think how they could disrupt our food supply, they will do it.
Interesting. All these different pathogens out there as we talk about bees, but you're right. This can affect everything, including humans, a most horrific disease. I'm not a medical doctor, but that's an interesting revelation there, Ted. It's, I don't know, dangerous world out there, but we're concentrating on how to keep the bees, and I do appreciate your commentary, bringing us up to speed on some of these other things in virology. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring up some other subject matters and have Miriam respond to these. Some other causation for the vanishing of the bees could be these pathogens, immunodeficiency theories, something called varroa mites. What the heck are they? I know what a mite is. It's like what, a tiny little insect? To help us on that, Miriam.
Yeah, I just want to clarify to Richard in regards to Africanized bees. By the way, my name is Miriam, not Marianne.
Okay.
The Africanized bees is about educating people. It's okay. Educating people and not spreading fear. Africanized bees, I've had to tape my bee suit and run away because they are extremely aggressive, and it has been a concern, but they also have hybridized with the Apis mellifera and there's Caucasian honeybees, there's Italian honeybees, so there's different variants of them. So,
interesting.
But it's going back to not spreading fear. As far as the varroa mite, it's like we have parasites that we carry, but it has to do with the immune system. So the immune system of the honeybee has been rattled, and then it can't fend off a varroa mite, where typically it could if it wasn't run down and eating just one food source at a time.
Amazing. So all these things that are tiny.
It would be easy. It would be easy to pin it on the varroa mite, but it's not the root of the issue.
Interesting. Let's continue on with some other plausible ideas. These are things that I'm reading and getting your commentary on. Acute paralysis virus. Somebody says here that the Israelis have identified this LAPV virus in some bees and some hives. Any truth to that, or is this just mere speculation at this point?
We do mention that in the film as well, this virus, but again, it goes back to the immune system. So we can have an immune system that is bolstered and that fights off the viruses, or if the immune system is whittled down, you could look at like an AIDS patient of like just whittling down the immune system instead of bolstering, and then you think it's the HIV virus, but it's really a compromised immune system that has shut down. We saw similar things with coronavirus.
Yeah, it's amazing. So give us some positivity here. You've been giving us a lot of good information, but for those of you out there, like myself, Richard, and many others that are concerned about this, are we seeing a curve upward in how this whole situation of vanishing? Is it going still downward, or is there being progress made, even if we don't know the true causation?
Well, I mentioned earlier that colony collapse disorder is still very much an issue, and that commercial beekeepers are losing their bees. The movie is filled with solutions and positivity in order to empower people. Education is number one, being able to have a conversation and talk about the factors that are on the table contributing to this. And then once someone is educated, then they can be the change they want to see and make small adjustments in their own life.
Miriam Heine, she's our special guest. And I hate to cut you short, but I want you to do this for the audience, because we've having some issues hearing you clearly throughout this. Not your fault, but somehow in the communication line there. So please give us your website again. Give us your email address so people out there can actually explore more about this very interesting subject. And I appreciate you being here on this radio station talking with us.
And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Thank you. Can you hear me now? My pleasure.
Please, just give us that as we conclude. I do appreciate that. I want to do a little sky update, which is one of the main tenets of this radio show, so people, no matter where they are, look to the heavens, too, to see the most amazing things in the sky. But your website and your email so people can follow you, and, of course, more on Vanishing of the Bees.
So people can buzz on over to honeycolony.com, HONEYCOLONY.com, and do a search for DVD. They'll find other things there. They can use BeLady15 if they'd like a coupon for 15% off. They can email me at Miriam, MARYAM, @honeycolony.com. And they can also check out Miriam Heine
maryamheine.com, MaryamHenein as in Nancy.com. Thank you.
No, thank you for your time, and we'll look forward to talking with you in the future about this. And update me, of course, on my email if any big revelations come through that need to be broadcast at this particular microphone on the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you, Miriam. Do appreciate you and the work that you're doing, and in other areas of work that we haven't even talked about here in this particular episode. We wish you the best for a good evening and a good morning, and we'll continue on with Richard Dugan. Richard, you get the last word here, and then I want to do our little Sky Report, if we can at least get a few more minutes to do that before the top of the hour. Your concluding comment, Richard?
Well, first of all, I did enjoy Miriam's documentary. I hope that she revises it or updates it and so forth, because I'm going, wait a minute, 2010, that's 26 years or 16 years ago. But it was still relevant. There's no question about it. I guess I'm the kind of guy that likes to stay optimistic, stay positive, and think that we will solve this. We will solve it, or at the very least, we will turn the corner and start to do better at taking care of those creatures that are integral in the survival of man by turning back to the ways of nature. I've said this before on my program over and over again, that nature is our greatest teacher.
How do they get in touch with you, Richard? What's the way they can get in touch with you and your program?
Well, Tell Me Your Story is the name of the program. RichardDugan.com is the website where you can find all this good stuff, and my email address is richard@richarddugan.com. I made it very complicated. So.
Hey, if you can't get that one, I got to figure a way to get one easy for me. But, Richard, thank you so much. And again, I promote what I'm reading here about your background. Again, I say this respectfully. Richard Dugan is a legally blind radio host, author, and producer for the program that we're talking about that you do. Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. But what's interesting, you and I know each other for many years, and you began working, I'm reading this, with the Sun Sounds radio reading service for the blind. And I think that's amazing, Richard. So a shout out to you for doing that service for those people that do not have the ability to see the world that we see, but in many, many ways, I believe they see the world, too, in a way that we don't. What say you?
Absolutely. I say yes, and I have to tell you, being 65 now, believe it or not, I look back on those days fondly. I started in 79 in this business. Mm-hmm. I was 19, and there are times when I enjoyed it so much, I wish I could go back and relive those days. It was really a fun time. So, but thank you so much for having me a part of this program. This was very, very interesting. And I'm actually hoping to have, if she'll have me after mispronouncing her name, I'm hoping to have Miriam on my program, not just to talk about the bees, but other things that she's got going on. Yeah.
But thank you, Richard. I'm going to jump into our Sky Update, which is many people, of course, they look forward to hearing about what's going on above us as we've been talking down. So thank you. Blessings to you and your family, and we will talk soon. Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up the hour number 2 here on the Dr. Sky Experience, we look to the heavens to see what is happening, of course, and here is what's happening. The moon at its last quarter phase on the 9th, meaning it rises around midnight. The best time, if you have a telescope or binocular, to see the dark and light line on the moon called the terminator, that's the setting sun on the surface of the moon. If you were on the moon, you have 14 days of daylight and 14 days of darkness. What a strange place that would be. Astronauts from Earth, meaning United States astronauts, are looking to descend to the southern pole of the moon, probably no earlier than 2027, maybe 2028 to be more realistic. The moon, of course, moves on to its new phase. We call it new because you don't see it, and the darkness of the sky is at its best. That new moon, of course, on the 17th. And for those of you that are down near Antarctica, not kidding, there's an annular eclipse of the sun. What's that? Take a dime and take a nickel. Put the dime over the nickel, and you'd still see a lot of the nickel, meaning that the moon is not completely covering the sun. They call it an annulus, or a ring of light. The moon continues to wax. It moves on to its first quarter phase on the 24th, and those of you out there that have a telescope, Saturn adorns the high southwest position in the sky. And that, on the evening of the 20th, Saturn and Neptune in the same telescope field are most impressive. And then the dominant planet, god of Zeus, the god of gods in the Roman and Greek world, the planet Jupiter rules the night. Where I am in Phoenix, it's nearly overhead, but look for it at time of sunset as you look, of course, and high into the eastern part of the sky. The giant planet Jupiter we should be grateful for, because errant asteroids and bodies that are zipping through the solar system, like a giant vacuum in the solar system, Jupiter serves an amazing purpose. That, the king of the planets. Galileo discovered those 4 basic moons back on January 7th of 1610, named after his many mistresses. There were more than the numbers I'm going to mention now. Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Clear skies as we, of course, go through the deep of winter. Warmer days will come, and now we pass the torch of conversation to T.J. McCormick as he continues to sunrise or thereabouts on the other side of midnight. And thanks to our helmsmen Tony and Bill for making it sound as good as you would expect. Clear skies and good health. We'll do it again next week. See you then.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here? Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Payne Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.